Wanted to give you guys a quick demo on using household items to use as a mold for creating more pieces. So creating a slab, finding a dish of some sort that you can use as a mold to create new pieces. And what we're going to do is create this slab, cover the clay with something that will help release it from the plate, such as cornstarch. Press the slab into the piece that you're using for a mold, and then it creates a piece identical to the inside shape of whatever plate or dish that you found at home to use. So this is an example of one where I pressed the slab into the piece, let it get leather hard, pulled it out, and you can see it took the same shape as the platter that I made it from. And then I just cleaned up the edges how I wanted it, made it a little bit smaller, and then was working on decorating it. So that's an example of that platter. This is just a styrofoam platter that I got from the grocery store. Typically, like, meat is packaged in these, and they work really great. They create some kind of nice platter shapes that you can use for press molds also. So as you can see, this was one that I used to create this piece. Okay, so it's a really quick and easy process to make quick forms that you can use to do your surface design work on. So I rolled out a slab. Again, I can see the texture of the canvas in my slab. So I'm just going to take the flat edge of my metal rib, make sure it's good and clean, and I'm just going to smooth out that texture. Just personal preference, so I don't have to clean it up later. Slab is interesting because there's two different stoneware clays in here, so it looks kind of marbled. It's interesting. All right. So this slab is about maybe a 1/4 inch thick. The thinner your slab, the lighter the piece will be, and probably easier to press into your mold piece. So I'm just kind of rolling this out a little thinner, trying to keep it as consistent as possible, consistent thickness. I can always press it a little bit more once it's in there, or carve away at it. So sometimes it's nice to leave a little bit of thickness so that you can carve back into it. So I am going to take this piece. I'm going to cut my slab just so it just a little bit beyond the outside shape of my dish. So I'm going about 1/2 inch out. You could go wider if you wanted to. Experiment with it and see what you prefer. So when this gets pressed into the dish, it's going to squish down in, so it's probably going to be a little bit shorter on the edges, but I'm okay with that. And again, kind of your personal preference. You can play around with it. So now I need something that's going to release the clay from my form. So especially something like this that is non-porous, it's glossy, it's smooth. If you press clay onto this directly and then let it get leather hard and try to pull it up, it will most likely stick to the surface and you'll end up having to dig it up and peel it, and it's going to ruin your piece. So you need to put something on your clay to help release it from whatever form you're using. There's multiple things you can use. I like to use cornstarch. It's easy. Most people have it. You can also use non-stick cooking oil, like the sprays, like a Pam spray, and spray that onto the dish before you place your clay in there. And what that does is it creates that barrier between the two, and the oil will prevent the clay from sticking to your form that you're using as a mold. I like cornstarch because it's a little bit cleaner. I don't like dealing with the grease, and the cornstarch will burn away in the kiln once it's fired. Another thing you can use too is you can get newsprint or newspaper and get it wet, tear it into strips like you would for paper mache, and place it on the inside of the dish until it fits the form. Put your clay in there, and then as it dries, the newsprint will keep it separate from your platter or mold, and you can remove your piece once it's gotten to that leather hard stage, and then remove the newsprint. And any newsprint that stays on there will just burn away in the kiln. Another option is saran wrap, which might leave wrinkles and things pressed into your clay, but you can always smooth that out. So if you have saran wrap, you can use that as a barrier as well. So what I'm doing is I have laid my slab over my mold, and I'm just with my fingers gently trying not to leave too many fingerprints. I'm trying to press it into the shape of the dish that I'm using as a mold. So you will start, after you start using, found objects as molds, you'll start seeing things that might make interesting molds all over the place. I have kept some plastic packaging that I would like to try. Like the other day I bought a bottle of soap, and it was packaged in plastic. So I had like a 2-part mold. It wrapped around the bottle of soap. So you've got like the soap dispenser shape in 2 different halves. I thought that might be kind of an interesting thing to play around with, see if I can make a mold of that. So keep your eyes out for interesting things that'll make a good mold at some point. Doesn't always have to be a functional dish. Might be a good sculptural element. So, all right, I've got it pressed in there. You can see it's kind of overlapping the edge. I can go in here now and trim it up if I wanted to. I might just I'm going to leave it for now. I'll let it get to that leather hard stage. And when I pull it out, I'll trim the edge to how I want it to be. I haven't really decided if I want to make it a decorative edge, if I want to have this kind of deep lip. This one I trimmed right away, and it doesn't give me much of a wide lip on that dish. So maybe I'll try it. Just leave it like this and see what I can do with it once it's at the leather hard stage. Just a reminder, this is, just looking at this, you can see that it's the bone dry stage. It's kind of that chalky white. So at this point, I wouldn't be able to manipulate this piece much. I would risk cracking it. So just a reminder, this is very plastic clay straight out of the bag. This is more bone dry. I think this piece is already kind of getting to that bone dry stage as well. But the best time to carve into anything and do any major changes to it is the leather hard stage. So I'm going to let this piece sit for a couple of hours, checking on the edges, making sure they're not getting too dry. I might just loosely cover it and let it sit out for a couple of hours, and then come back to it when it's leather dry, pull it out of the mold, and start carving into it. Or at that point, I could add feet to the dish, change the edge of my piece, and then start doing some of that surface design stuff. So here I'm going to show you one more. The platter. So I'm going to use this one again, show you guys how I would do this one. So I am going to scoot it this way a little bit because I've got kind of a piece of this slab kind of dips in a little bit, and I want to avoid that as much as possible. So I'm not even going far out from the edge of this one. I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. So I'm cutting right up to the edge of that platter. All right, so now I've got my piece of clay. And again, I could have rolled this slab a little bit thinner. I don't mind a good hefty platter though. So we'll just leave it as is. So again, I can't take this and just put it right in there. It would stick to this non-porous surface, and then I would end up having to like dig it off of the mold. So again, I'm just going to take some of this cornstarch and sprinkle it on there. Don't need a lot. That was probably more than I needed, but I'm just trying to make sure I cover all edges and things. Okay. I'm going to take my slab, I'm going to place it into the platter and just press it down. Get rid of that clump there. Try to smooth out some of these edges that kind of picked up extra clay. So I'm just going to make sure it's pressed all the way down into those curves, so I get that nice gradual curve in the wall. And again, I could try to trim up this edge now. I think I'm going to wait until it's at the leather hard stage, since I haven't really decided what I want to do with it yet. So what's going to happen is when this dries a little bit, it gets leather hard. As you guys probably know from ceramics 1, when clay dries, it shrinks. So what's going to do, it's going to shrink and it's going to kind of pull away from the mold. And with the cornstarch, it won't stick. So it's just going to kind of shrink and come in, so that when I come back, when this is leather hard, it'll just like slide right off the plate. And I'll have another version of a platter like this. So I can make matching platters, or I can make something that relates to that design, make something different, but is connected to that image somehow. So that is using the hump mold or the drape mold, whatever you want to call it. Again, you could drape it over the top. You could flip the bowl this way and put your slab over that way. I just find for these particular dishes, this works really well. So good luck. Go searching for interesting dishes to try out. Again, quick and easy process. You can make multiples of the same dish and manipulate the surface in many different ways. So have fun.